When did you first think about having your very own labyrinth?
Well, I tell you, I always have been fascinated by the labyrinth. And I began to think, for I don't know what reasons, that I'd like to have one when I was making this garden. And you and I were standing down in the lower garden, and I said, I'd like to have a labyrinth. I always liked the thought of them, and I'd like to have one. And you said, well, that's quite a coincidence, because I know a woman who puts in labyrinths all over the world, and she happens to be down in the Big Sur right now conducting a workshop on labyrinths.
That's right. Yes.
And I said, this isn't even possible. It's impossible. Well, you said, I will tell her about it, and she'll stop by and talk to you. And so that's exactly what you did, and Lauren Artress, who is the Labyrinth Queen of the world, I think.
That's right, I agree. She is. She is.
Who's made labyrinth into a cottage industry. And she just did stop by, and she did say that this was where it should be. I had thought it would be down there, right in front of the gate. But instead, she said, no, it should be in front of the library, between the library and the chapel. It's the right place for it to be. And so I thought that was fine. And then she, with your friendly helps and helpers, we laid out the pattern.
Yes, yeah.
Because I wanted the simplest, most ancient pattern of all, which is the 7 turns, the labyrinth, of 1 path, 7 turns, and the center figure.
And is that officially called the Celtic Labyrinth?
It is. People call it the Celtic Labyrinth, but actually it's simply the oldest, the one that it can be either 7 or sometimes 11, sometimes 13. But it is that it is a true labyrinth, and it is only 1 path, and there's no way of getting lost on it. And the thing that people always do confuse, and even to my astonishment, people writing books about the labyrinth sometimes refers to it as a maze. And they refuse to recognize that a maze and a labyrinth are profoundly different. They're profoundly different in the first and most important way, which is a maze is something which amazes you. And you go along and you think you're going the right direction, you find you're up against a stone wall, and you have to turn around and go back. You can be trapped in a maze. And actually, some of the great mazes in Europe, in England, have to have a person who's sitting up above the maze so that the people who get lost in the maze and very easily get panicky and hysterical because they don't know how to get out. And the maze doesn't tell you. See, the maze intends you not to know. Yes, and it's a very different thing, and it arises and is most important in the 17th century when that whole intellectual bursting of Europe comes about. And then the great thing is that in order for a maze to do this, it has to have walls so that you can't see. Now, see, in a regular labyrinth like this, in a plain labyrinth, you can see where you're going. And you can see whether you can have to continue on that. In fact, you can only continue on its 1 path. And if you don't ever cross any of the divisions, you're there's no problem. There's none of this sense of I'm in a trap, or I'm lost, or I've been fooled, or none of these things. It's a perfectly clear path.
It's not a game.
It is not a game. The whole concept of this kind of 1 path, 7-turn labyrinth is the most ancient form that human beings have ever made. It is something which is absolutely continuous with the human race. And this is just astounding. There's nothing else like this. And whether people, you see, the language people speak makes no difference. They have them in Egypt, they have them in Japan, China, India, Greece, Rome, just no end of them. But the Southwest Indians weave a labyrinth into the bottom of their baskets. And it's a perfect labyrinth like this. It is just
like this. Amazing.
and even the fact that in the Middle Ages, actually from early Christian times on, a labyrinth was built into all the churches and the cathedrals, and nobody knows why. Nobody knows, and nobody knows now why did the Stone Age people trace a labyrinth in the wall. They couldn't have walked it, you know. It's just a tracing, or they went through it with their fingers. What did it mean to them? And what does it mean to somebody in the Middle Ages who has one in the cathedral? No one knows what it means, even though it's that recent. They wanted one, they had one, and it's just like me. I don't have any reason. I wanted a labyrinth, and I've got a labyrinth, and that's the end of it. I mean, I had also the great joy of making it in cement, which is my favorite material for any use in the arts. And then once I was going to make it in cement, I thought it would be nice if it were different colors, and so it's pink and white and pink and white. And then I thought, because I love, beyond almost anything, I really love to draw in cement. It's my absolute favorite medium. And I have a nice stick with a nail on the end so that I don't have to stoop over and I can draw. Oh, I really have absolutely no patience with the idea that the labyrinth is a powerful healing mechanism for disturbed psyches. I don't think that's true, partly because I think the labyrinth is much beyond that. It's more than that. And so I wanted my labyrinth to convey instead the marvel and the mystery of the creation of the world. So, and I've never heard of a labyrinth anywhere that had drawings on it, but I decided mine was going to have the first chapter of Genesis. So I have, and you enter in through darkness and chaos, and you move into order and light, and that's right where you start. You see, in this. So it's just chaotic pieces of black tile, and then solid pieces of dark, and then wonderfully ordered light in this little sort of bathroom assistant over there. But, and then it goes on to the things that the order of the firmament, so that they're, and in the firmament I put a winged lion and a winged unicorn, because and all of the astrological signs they're all in the beginning of the thing, and then it goes on into the separation of the land and the waters, and the creation of creepy crawly things, and so on till you get to the creation of Adam and Eve from the side of Adam, and paradise itself, or the center of the labyrinth. So where I put a yang yin, because I believe all creation comes from the union of opposites. So I had a great pleasure in doing this, though I felt somewhat daunted when the man that does the cement for me, Larry, said, well, it'll be 60 feet the first thing. 60 feet of concrete. And I thought, oh dear, that sounds like a lot. And then, of course, the next one is 40, and the next one, over 50, and the next 40, and so on. So that it's many, many feet of drawing in concrete, which was a great, great joy to me. And it was at the time of the year that sometime it would rain and sometime it wouldn't. And Larry made the concrete in the morning, and then by late afternoon I could draw in it. It would be ready to draw in, and so.
And for how long could you draw? And how long would you have to draw in it, though?
Well, that's it. He wouldn't make more than about 30 feet.
So,
you see.
So you could manage that.
Yeah.
But
so I could do that, and I didn't make any preliminary drawings or do anything like actually figuring out, really where you go. I just drew and drew until I had finished with the first chapter.
No, you just hoped that it was going to, and it did.
So that, and the way you walk it, I'm sorry to say, or I'm glad to say, but nonetheless it's true, that Eve is created before Adam, the way you walk. Though she's being extracted from the side of Adam, he has not yet been created. So you take 3 or 4 steps more, and there's Adam created. Well, now, you see, I should have corrected that And I did have a wonderful system of correcting. I would just say, Larry, erase it, and put it on another nice piece of concrete, and so he would do that. So, but I didn't do that I didn't figure it out until I had already set. So, and I never I decided I wouldn't change it. Let Eve be first one of it.
Well, maybe it's part of the mysteriousness of wisdom.
That's right. That's
being
right.
So ancient.
And the many stories from different societies and different groups of people that believe that the world was created by a spider woman, by a woman who wove and spun and wove until the world was made. And so I think I can identify dear Eve with the spider woman.
Well,
she created not only Adam but the rest of the world.
Well, maybe yourself as well.
That's right. So that's and my joy in the labyrinth is very great. Every time I walk through it and by it and look at it, I rejoice that it's pink, and I rejoice that it's plain, and I rejoice that it's covered with things that have nothing to do with the self, except in a proper and humble way, not to discover the self, but to place the self in the whole marvel and mysterious power of the created world. And that's what I hope everybody who walks it will humbly realize, that they are allowed to live in this extraordinary and marvelous thing that we call the world. So, or the universe, which I think is full of equally marvelous and strange things that we'll finally find or know. Now that's enough.
Good. Very good. That was just wonderful.